This Saturday, I had the privilege of being a part of the Maiden Couples Summit for the police church near licensing office. And I'm grateful to the chaplain, Reverend Superintendent Mrs. Emilia Quist, and her husband, DCOP Emmanuel Quist, for their warmth and their fellowship. The Couples Summit, though a first for the police church, was well organized and they made it fun. Congratulations to the committee that put it together and to the chaplain, Reverend Mrs. Quist, for the vision and the courage to try something new. From the police church, I went into an online program as a special guest of what they call the Pink Room, organized by the New You, TNU, fitness organization founded by Senna. Now, on the Pink Room program, a question was thrown to me that I want to speak on this morning. The question was, what is the most difficult thing about running a company or a business in Ghana? To answer the question, let me tell you a story. A successful businessman in Accra decided to set up a beach resort in his hometown in the central region to give employment to the youth in the town. He invested a lot to put up this magnificent resort and had about 80 young people hired and trained to work in the place. He had experienced hoteliers come to his hometown to train his staff and got a few hotels in Accra to give his key personnel orientation and further training. Our businessman, a very thorough person, made sure he was on site every Friday afternoon through to Monday morning. And he did this every week. He would go over the books, take stock, and restock to ensure that nothing was in short supply. The resort was not making that much money, but he was satisfied that he was at least providing direct employment for almost 100 young people from the town and nearby towns. In the third year of the resort, our man went as usual on Friday afternoon to monitor affairs and to be on hand. On Saturday evening, one of his friends who had come from Holland on vacation with his wife decided to chase him to the resort and spend a few days there. Our man was happy to receive his friend and his wife and decided to give them a treat by serving them the most exotic and expensive drink at the bar. When the bottle was brought to their table, the guest was impressed. He knew the drink, he knew how expensive it was, and he felt that if his friend could afford to stock that kind of drink, then the resort had class. So you can imagine the pride with which our man opened the bottle and decided to serve the drink himself. His friend, with great expectation, took a sip, and then he frowned. He asked his wife to also take a sip. She did, and she also frowned. He turned to our man and said, "It is tea." Our man quickly took a sip, and he was shocked. It was indeed tea in the bottle. No, this was not the case of Jesus passing through the hotel resort and turning wine into tea. The mystery was simpler than that. The hotel staff had sold the original contents of the bottle and pocketed the money and filled the bottle with brewed tea to outwit the weekly stock-taking exercise. Our man then checked the contents of all the other bottles of the other expensive drinks and discovered that they were all tea or diluted Coke or just plain water, depending on the color the original drink had. What is the most difficult thing about running a business in Ghana? It is finding workers who are faithful, loyal, committed to the work, and have integrity and will not sabotage or undermine the company. If you make the mistake of depending on your workers to be honest and dedicated, even though it is the business that pays them, your business will die. A lady who had worked all her life in the US in a very good position took an early retirement and returned to Ghana to see what she could do to help in Ghana. On advice from those she consulted, she built a water purification plant and brought in state-of-the-art machines to ensure that the water from her factory would be the best. She bought 3 brand new Kia flatbed trucks for the distribution of the output from the factory. The family, seeing how much she had invested in the factory, encouraged her to hire her uncle, who had a vast working experience as the general manager. She did, and offered him a very generous package. The first month of operations was wonderful. The shops fell in love with the quality of the water, and the factory struggled to meet the demand. Then she had to return to the US because her former employer needed her specialized services. She took up the assignment because she knew that the factory could run without her supervision. After all, her uncle was in charge, and she had put in good internal controls. She was sure nothing could go wrong. Well, she was wrong. When she returned 4 months later, the company was in trouble. She discovered that the drivers would take some goods out in the morning, sell them by 9 a.m., and spend the rest of the day going to other factories, water factories, to buy from them, sell and pocket the sales using her trucks and her fuel. How could things go so wrong when her own uncle, experienced uncle, was in charge? Well, the workers discovered that the man had a problem with alcohol, and they would always bring him a bottle of his favorite drink. So by 9 a.m., he was in a drunken stupor, and the factory belonged to the workers, who sold the water and shared the money among them. The lady was so heartbroken at the perfidy of the workers that she shut the factory down and auctioned the machines and went back to the US. The Ghanaian entrepreneur or businessman is in trouble because the average Ghanaian worker works for himself and not for the company that employs him. The Ghanaian worker operates with a catch-me-if-you-can mentality. No matter what system you put in place, the workers will find a way of rendering the system ineffective. And even those who are not part of the looting will not expose them. So, Ghanaian businesses cannot grow because the founder has to keep it small so he can continue to be fully in charge and in control of everything. And forget about employing family members because they are often the worst. We cry that there's no work in Ghana, and yet every day, those who need jobs desperately kill a company. Something has to change in our values. Otherwise, we will one day find ourselves begging foreigners to employ us in our own country.